On this episode of Ultra Top Secret, we will see that P. Diddy operated a machine similar to Jeffrey Epstein's Blackmail Island. But there's more evidence that P. Diddy operated his operation with the help of, his own words, powerful organizations that paid for everything that he did. His own money was never used, and the services of organized gangs and organized crime were purchased by him. We will also see that JLO was also involved in his operations. Let's see. Let's watch.
Former music producer for Sean Diddy Combs, worked on his latest album with him, suing him for sex trafficking and sexual assault and harassment. Well, they filed new court documents, and included in those documents was an unsworn declaration from Jones himself, detailing more things he saw, heard, experienced during his time working and basically living with Combs. And in this 18-page declaration, it starts with a promise that he's telling the truth. Quote, I have personal knowledge of the facts set forth herein, which I know to be true and correct, and if called upon to testify as a witness, I could and would completely testify thereto. Now, he's declaring all of this under threat of perjury, so if he's lying, that's a big deal. Now, if you ask me, I think one of the reasons Jones is doing this is to bolster his credibility because it's come under attack in the public. As we mentioned, some of the people that he mentioned in his lawsuit have fired back against those allegations. Opposing counsel questioned his narratives and motives. So this is an opportunity for him to tell the court, look, I have the receipts. I can back up what I'm saying. I will testify about this. So there are a lot of details that he provides, including background and how he got linked up with and started working for Diddy. And we already covered a lot of that in his complaint on previous sidebars. But according to Jones, he has hundreds of hours of video of Combs in his inner circle. He says that Combs required him to film constantly because he did not like to repeat himself. He said, quote, I quickly learned that from observing him lose his temper with his staff and family if they failed to remember something he said a day or two prior. Jones lists out crimes that he says he saw happen in real time. Quote, I witnessed the acquisition, use, and distribution of ecstasy, cocaine, GHB, ketamine, marijuana, and mushrooms. I witnessed Mr. Combs display and distribute unregistered illegal firearms. I witnessed Mr. Combs provide laced alcoholic beverages to minors and sex workers at his homes in California, New York, the Virgin Islands, and Florida. I witnessed Mr. Combs' chief of staff, Christina Coram, instruct the staff to retrieve drugs so she could provide them to Mr. Combs for his consumption. And then Jones also talks about that alleged assault that he witnessed on Combs' chartered yacht. You remember when we covered this, that Jones's attorneys had filed a separate civil action against Combs' son, Christian King Combs, on behalf of a woman named Grace O'Markey. She was a steward on the yacht. Remember, and Combs had chartered that yacht for the Christmas holiday in 2022. So according to the declaration, Jones, quote, witnessed Christian Combs drug and sexually assault a stewardess while we were on the yacht Mr. Combs rented in St. Bartholomew, St. Martin, and the Virgin Islands. The assault began in the makeshift studio on the yacht while I was recording Christian Combs' auto-tunes rapping. Again, we talked more in depth about that lawsuit in another sidebar episode. O'Markey claims that Christian gave her a spiked drink, touched her all over her body without her permission, and tried to force her to perform oral sex on him, and she had to actually fight him off. Now, the next part of this declaration from Mr. Jones is absolutely fascinating. It reads, quote, I have videos of Mr. Combs and me working out on the treadmill with T.D. Jakes playing on the monitor. We watch T.D. Jakes' sermons every morning during our workouts. At first, I thought it was admirable that Mr. Combs listened to sermons while working out until I realized he was not studying the message, he was studying the messenger's mannerisms. During our gym sessions, he detailed how he planned to leverage his relationship with Bishop T.D. Jakes to soften the impact on his public image of Cassie Ventura's pending lawsuit. Remember, Ventura had filed a lawsuit against Combs back in 2023 for sexual assault and sex trafficking, but she ended up settling with Combs the day after it was filed. So Jones also goes into detail about what he said happened at this so-called writers camp at Chalice Recording Studios. You may recall that in his lawsuit, he claims he witnessed a shooting there and that Combs allegedly tried to cover up his involvement. He writes, quote, Mr. Combs converted the parking lot of Chalice Recording Studios into a makeshift nightclub. He had everything imaginable there, including a full-service bar, a massage spa, and hookah. Mr. Combs required everyone working on the Love album to take laced shots of De Leon tequila. There was no way to tell him no. Mr. Combs felt anyone who refused to drink with him was suspicious and untrustworthy. At the time, I did not realize that he used the laced shots of alcohol to obtain and maintain control over the person consuming the alcohol. And of course, the lawsuits against Combs have accused him of sex trafficking, and that is allegedly what the Homeland Security investigation into him is tied to, a trafficking operation. Remember, his properties in L.A. and Miami were raided by Homeland Security agents 2 weeks ago. Jones continues in the declaration with, quote, "Throughout the duration of my time living with Mr. Combs, I personally witnessed Mr. Combs order his staff to bring him drugs and sex workers. This was a common occurrence, and he was never told no. During this time, I was forced to solicit sex workers and perform sex acts to the pleasure of Mr. Combs. Unbeknownst to me, Mr. Combs had hidden cameras and audio devices in all of the rooms of his homes. I only discovered this several months into living with him when I had to pick up my Uber Eats delivery from the security office. Usually, the security would bring my food deliveries to me whenever I was in Mr. Combs' home, but at this point, I was close and familiar with the security, so they called me to their room and told me I could go in and retrieve my food myself. I saw 4 to 6 large flat-screen television monitors at the time. Each monitor had at least 20 to 30 little screens in them. Each screen was a view of a room in and surrounding Mr. Combs' home." Remember, Jones claims that he was sex trafficked, and if there is videos of this, and that's presented at a trial, that is significant evidence, to say the least. Now, Jones even listed out the document dates when he says he was forced to solicit sex workers for Combs. He also names a celebrity that we haven't really referenced yet, Chris Brown. Yeah, quote, "On July 2nd, 2023, Mr. Combs had a listening party in his California home. There were a lot of people present at this party, including Chris Brown, Justin Combs, sex workers, and some underage girls. Justin Combs would typically bring the younger women to these parties. I have 2 videos of 2 different sex workers that Justin Combs brought with him to Chalice Recording Studios. I can provide the videos to the court. This event began at 7 p.m. Mr. Combs requested female sex workers and required me to solicit them. An hour later, several sex workers appeared. In addition to sex workers, there were at least 5 women in the crowd who appeared to be under the age of 16. Mr. Combs forced all the attendees to drink laced De Leon liquor. I believe Mr. Combs laced the liquor with ecstasy. I have personally witnessed his staff members, Brendan Paul and Moy Bawn, lace alcohol with ecstasy. And we remember Brendan Paul was actually arrested on drug charges during the raid on Diddy's properties. But Jones continues, quote, "The presence of what I perceived to be underage women made me very uncomfortable. I attempted to leave, and Mr. Combs forced me to stay. I had my car keys in my book bag. I have never lost my keys, and Mr. Combs went so far as to take my car keys to prevent me from leaving. After being forced to drink laced De Leon shots, I began feeling lightheaded, and I passed out. I remember waking up at 4 a.m. the following morning, naked with a sex worker sleeping next to me." In his complaint, Jones had previously mentioned a similar event and describes it in this declaration as well, writing, quote, "On February 2nd, 2023, I believe Mr. Combs drugged me. I remember waking up naked, dizzy, and confused. I was in bed with 2 sex workers and Mr. Combs. I also recall aimlessly wandering around the house with no clothes on. I have photos of the sex workers sleeping on the bed the morning after. I can provide it to the court if necessary." And from there, Jones explains in this declaration some of the things he says that Combs offered him, which is important in a sex trafficking case, that you were transported over state lines, forced to perform sex acts, and were promised something of value. That's the commercial element of commercial sex acts. Quote, "Mr. Combs promised me many things to entice me to continue engaging in his sex trafficking operation. On multiple occasions, we discussed winning Grammys for the Love album. He promised I would win the Grammy for Producer of the Year for the Love album. He offered me $250,000 to purchase all the instruments I wanted. He promised me ownership of his $20 million property, One Star Island in Miami, Florida. He promised to give me access to record label executives." And from there, Jones gives more details about an alleged assault that happened in Miami. He says that while using the restroom, young Miami's cousin burst into the bathroom and began groping him. Quote, "I honestly believe that Mr. Combs sent her in there to sexually assault me, as I could hear him and the other guest laughing outside the door. As she entered the bathroom, she dropped to her knees and began performing oral sex on my exposed penis. I pushed her away and exited the bathroom. Young Miami's cousin did not accept my rejection and followed me out of the bathroom. She started undressing in front of everyone and attempted to straddle me and have sex with me in the presence of Mr. Combs and his staff. They were all laughing. Jones also talked about Combs' sometimes violent personality. Quote, Mr. Combs often switched his approach to force me to obey and comply with his demands. On multiple occasions, he would threaten me with physical harm. Mr. Combs threatened to eat my face and inform me that he was willing to kill his mother to get what he wanted so he wouldn't think twice about harming me. That is something that we heard in the prior complaint as well. Quote, Mr. Combs would also make me work out of this bedroom whenever he had gang members and drug dealers visit him. I have witnessed Mr. Combs hand out guns from the hidden room in his bedroom closet. I have witnessed known gang members at his home in LA and Miami be paid from the stacks of cash he has in the hidden room in his bedroom closet. Jones says that Combs was very aware of the power he had and made sure that everyone around him knew it too. Quote, throughout my time living with Mr. Combs, he made it very clear that he did not spend his money on anything. He made it clear that he had partnerships and relationships with very powerful individuals and organizations, and these individuals and organizations funded his lifestyle. And then the declaration from Jones also rebuts claims by Universal Music Group, a defendant in his lawsuit. Jones writes, quote, my counsel informed me that UMG claims that they did not pay for sex workers or sponsored any of the club love parties or the writers' camp. These claims are contradicted by the reality I saw with my own eyes. There were employees of UMG and Motown present at the writers' camp, at listening parties, and after parties. I was told by Mr. Combs they were there, and I saw them there. Mr. Combs told me they were scouting for talent. As it pertains to the sex workers, they also paid for them. I have several videos of the Chalice recording studio sessions, as well as in-home recording sessions, and there are sex workers and producers in the studio. The sex workers in these videos were the only individuals paid. So again, this is his account, right? If he backs it up by receipts, photos, screenshots, it's important. It's important. And these are very, very serious claims. And now he's doubling down on this court filing, saying that in this unsworn declaration that he can prove it. Now, I will tell you that Jones, he also provides multiple photos in the lawsuit of men and women inside a recording studio. Jones claims that the women in these photos are sex workers. And the declaration goes on to talk about the bragging that Combs allegedly did to Jones, that he lists out several stories Combs allegedly told him. Quote, Mr. Combs bragged about having Daphne Joy, the child mother of a competing rapper, on payroll as one of his sex workers. I have a video of Mr. Combs on a massage table receiving a massage from a professional masseuse while Daphne Joy is giving him a foot massage. Mr. Combs bragged about shooting a woman in the face in 1999 in New York City and getting away with it. He bragged about departed attorney Johnny Cochran's savvy legal skills and ability to pay off the witnesses through private investigators and other third parties. He bragged about having Jennifer Lopez carrying his gun into the club the night of the shooting and the fact that he had so much power and influence over her at the time. He bragged about getting Shine to take the heat for the shooting and the fact that he paid Shine through a record deal with his good friend L.A. Reid. And it doesn't end there, because he also says that, quote, Mr. Combs also informed me that only poor people pay taxes. He shared that it is a common practice in the music industry to wire money from anonymous accounts overseas. This way, if there is ever a need to take care of a problem, it would never be traced back to him. These accounts were in Germany. At the very end of the document, Jones says, quote, I could share other things, but I do not feel comfortable putting them in this document. I will be willing to discuss them with the court under seal to preserve my Fifth Amendment rights. Now, a lot to take in there. This just doubles down my belief that he is a cooperating witness with the government in this.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, a lot to take in there. This guy, I hope he stays alive. He just said he is claiming in court a lot of very, very interesting things. I find this whole thing interesting. The thing that I find most interesting is that his worker is talking about how Sean Combs had relationships with very powerful organizations. He talks about known gang members coming in and out of there, getting stacks of cash, unregistered weapons. Probably, and he talks about, narcotics. This whole thing again is like Epstein Island, where they, you notice in his court documents, he said that they would lace De Leon tequila with ecstasy, and he said that there was a time when he was made to take the shot, and the drug, whatever was in that, was so powerful that he was knocked out and then was still wandering around unclothed, very, very many hours afterwards. So we're talking about a high level, powerful narcotic that he was feeding to all these people, according to this guy's court documents. Again, this is a lot like the Epstein Island thing. Think about this for a second. Nobody's making the connection. Everybody shows up, everybody has a shot, everyone thinks they're going to this party. I'll just have a drink. Mr. Combs makes sure that everybody takes a shot of this thing. And by the way, there's underage females here at this thing, and then everybody passes out. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see what happens then. Even if people aren't having relations or didn't do anything, people could be positioned in ways. Now, you wake up just like this guy said. He wakes up and there's underage females laying around everywhere in various stages of undress. So here we go with the blackmail stuff. So now this guy, if he tricks somebody into going to one of these parties that hasn't been, snagged, now he's got them by the, what? It's really amazing. This Epstein, this is just like Epstein Island. Epstein was doing the actors and the judges and politicians, and it looks like Sean Combs was doing the rap thing. Another very interesting thing about this whole thing is the organization. So he mentions street gangs, he mentions gangs, he mentions other record studios like Motown and Chalice Records, but then he just says powerful organizations. What does that mean? Does that mean intelligence agencies? Because Epstein Island, Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's pal, her father was a well-known Mossad agent. Epstein was running around with Ghislaine Maxwell. They were so palsy-walsy with Prince Andrew and the higher levels of those royals that there's pictures of them sitting in the Queen's throne chair, chilling at the Queen's private cabin. So Epstein Island and Ghislaine Maxwell had ties with Mossad and probably MI6, British intelligence agencies. So is Sean Diddy Combs also part of this thing where he's also got intelligence organizations working with him, or he's working for them? Who has enough money to buy? He according to this guy's statement, Diddy Combs didn't have to pay for anything. His lifestyle was funded. Where have we heard that before? That's many other operatives that have worked for an organization that starts with C and ends with A. This guy didn't have to pay for anything. He was renting yachts, had islands, had multi-million-dollar estates everywhere, and supposedly he wasn't paying for it. And he was sending the money that he was making to offshore European accounts. That sounds like an intelligence operative to me. And when you look at the things that happened, everything he did, nobody seemed, he was like the Teflon Don. Everything, he just did whatever he wanted and knew he could. Nobody would, rat him out, or if they came close to it, they would, have heart issues and pass away. That's happened a few times. We've had many of his associates get capped, Biggie and Tupac Shakur. The Biggie thing, Biggie came into LA and was supposed to fly right back out to go to London, and P. Diddy stopped that. He he stopped that him from going out on a flight back to London, and he stayed in L.A. there. Many people have said that he was adamant that BIG stay in LA and not go anywhere, and then he got capped. So a lot of people around this guy are ending up hurt or worse. Nobody's doing anything about it. The media is not reporting on it. This is all very, very interesting. What other organization is this guy tied to that has this kind of power over the media and all that kind of stuff? Think about this. He didn't even get picked up. There's stories that he got stopped in Miami airport and was let go. Meanwhile, his kids are getting picked up. His courier got picked up and is still, probably singing like a canary there. This guy gets let go, even when all of these people are coming up to talk about how all of these things that he's done with the firing of firearms and clubs and stuff like that. This is all very interesting. This is very reminiscent of another intelligence organization that started the whole hippie movement in the 60s. I did some checking, and all of the hippie bands, back in the 60s, the Byrds, the Doors, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, all of those guys that started the hippie movement, they all had intelligence ties. All of their parents were former military. As a matter of fact, Jim Morrison's father was an admiral in the Navy. He's the one that started the Vietnam War with the Gulf of Tonkin incident. So it's not far-fetched to say that certain intelligence organizations are involved with this when it's already been shown that they were heavily involved with the hippie movement. Diddy Combs, from other things that I've watched, they're talking about how he had his own brand of narcotics. They called it pink, I won't say the pink yayo. And, this was a combination of certain things. What does that tell you? That tells you that this guy's got connections to labs. This is like the hippie movement when Tim O'Leary and all the high-level hippies had all the acid that they could get. And it was well known that it was dealt out and percolated and created in labs by an organization that starts with a C and starts with an A. So is this the same? Is this what's going on with P. Diddy? That's what I'm questioning. It's all very suspicious. He's bragging about all the high-level organizations that he's dealing with. He doesn't use any of his money to do any of this stuff, but he still makes lots of money to send off to offshore accounts. Nobody's done anything about this. He's got connections in media, music, and movies, many years ago. So now it's being alleged that JLO is a part of this. There's a thing where, to get through security, these girls are, hiding these, gats for their boyfriend so they can sneak them through security so they can then do things in the club. Is JLo going to go down for this as well? And Johnny Cochran is mentioned, the old O.J. Simpson lawyer, talking about how he used private investigators to pay off witnesses. Man, this is just high level stuff, and I don't think it's getting the proper attention it deserves. Yeah, they're talking about Diddy and the things he did and how he came up and all that kind of stuff. But this is the first time where it's being talked about the high level organizations that he's working with. This guy is like Epstein as well. His rise was meteoric. Epstein is a nobody. He's supposedly a school teacher, teaches school, and then somehow interviews at Bear Stearns, a $1 billion hedge fund, somehow works his way up through there because he's just that good. Then he gets with the Victoria's Secret CEO, and he basically runs him, tells him what to do. And then suddenly this guy, Has got money all over the place. Nobody can figure out where his fundage is coming from. He's got intelligence connections. This is all very, very interesting, and it's going on with the P. Diddy thing as well. So we have to ask the question, is P. Diddy connected with intelligence organizations? I think we already know the answer. Thanks for watching.